Tonight on CBC Vancouver News.
A family lost a child, and another child's in critical condition. We're heartbroken.
He was a bright athlete about to celebrate his birthday. We have new details on the young man killed in a boat crash in North Vancouver over the weekend. Plus,
I'm asking everyone to have a plan in place now before there's an emergency.
the BC government preaches preparedness as numerous wildfires prompt evacuation orders, especially in the bone-dry northeast. And
our emergency system is failing. Frontline providers are not allowed to talk about it.
a BC emergency room doctor alleges there are deteriorating conditions in local hospitals and claims her job was threatened when she tried to warn patients of delays.
This is CBC Vancouver News.
Hello, I'm Dan Burritt. Thanks for joining us. CBC News is learning more about the child killed in a speedboat crash on Saturday while tubing off Cates Park in North Vancouver. 10-year-old Lionel Hall, son of Shelley Klassen and Jason Hall, was enjoying a sunny afternoon with friends when tragedy took his life. Leanne Yu has more on what happened and the calls for change.
Details are emerging about the young life lost on the waters of Burrard Inlet this weekend. In an online fundraising page started by friends of the boy's mother, a portrait of Lionel Hall is coming to light. The page says Hall would have turned 11 in July. The youngest of 3 siblings, he was clever, sweet, and a talented athlete.
The community is, they're heartbroken that a family lost a child, and another child's in critical condition. We're heartbroken.
District of North Vancouver Councillor Lisa Murray is putting a community's grief into action.
The district is certainly going to be speaking with Port of Vancouver and Transport Canada, or MPs in the area, to talk about lowering the speed.
Murray added that not all parts of the Burrard Inlet are the same.
There are parts of the inlet from Stanley Park to the end of the arm that narrow and then they widen, but with more people in the area, it's becoming more and more dangerous.
The RCMP is in charge of patrolling and enforcement on the water. The District of North Vancouver's mayor is calling for more of both.
We need to step up the enforcement actions when we see somebody who's operating outside of norms. And to that end, just want to make sure that we're giving agency to the community. If you see an instance where you think someone is operating a boat recklessly, you can call 911 in the moment. And also, if you have information on the description of the vessel, but you're thinking about it after the fact, you can call our non-emergency line.
The district also aims to have better speed limit markers and signage. It's also pushing its annual boat safety awareness event with North Vancouver RCMP.
Operation Wave is an educational program where the authorities come down and check the boats, make sure they're operating well, that they've got all the life-saving equipment that they need on board, that they've got their license, and that'll be happening over the next 2 weeks at Cates Park.
RCMP say the suspect was released Sunday night with conditions. Police say they're still investigating whether speed and alcohol were factors in the collision. The accused has a court date set for August 27th, but charges have not yet been laid. Leanne Yu, CBC News, Vancouver.
BC's emergency minister is urging you to be ready for climate disasters as wildfires scorch part of the province's northeast. More hot and dry weather is expected in the coming months. Michelle Morton has more on the outlook and some reported damage already.
Early signs of what could be a difficult fire season. After a weekend of warm weather, BC's emergency preparedness officials are warning the public some regions could have their work cut out for them.
There are currently 10 evacuation orders in place affecting approximately 120 households in the Peace River Regional District, Fort Nelson First Nation, and Northern Rockies Regional Municipality. There are also 5 evacuation alerts.
There are 3 wildfires of note, including the Kiskatna River Fire, which officials confirm has destroyed some structures.
Up to 7 structures lost, some of them being old derelict buildings, some mobile homes, etc.
South of Fort Nelson, the Pocket Knife Creek wildfire, which officials say has grown substantially after merging with another, has caused the closure of Highway 97 on and off in both directions.
We are trying to work really closely to ensure that they've got access to services and the supports they need in the direction that they're able to evacuate.
The Wildfire Service says the likelihood of an active season is growing in areas with persistent drought, such as the southwestern interior and the far northwest, but adds the northeast is of greatest concern and will experience continued fire activity throughout the summer due to multi-year drought conditions. Residents are being advised to be prepared for emergencies this summer, including having a grab-and-go bag ready with essentials. Michelle Morton, CBC News, Vancouver.
BC Wildfire, meanwhile, is reporting a new blaze off Highway 99 near Squamish. It says it's in the Dryden Creek area across from Brackendale, and at last check is about half a hectare in size. It is marked as out of control, meaning it is either spreading or expected to spread beyond the current perimeter or control line. Darius is away, so Steve Jong joins us for a first look at the weather concerning news there out of Squamish. Hopefully they get that under control. What about in the northeast? Any relief there?
Well, Dan, we're hopefully going to see some relief coming to the northeast. By the time we get to about the midweek point, we do see some scattered showers start to form. But then on Thursday and Friday, it begins forming even more and moving into the northeastern part of the province, those drought-affected areas, those very dry areas. So hopefully this is some good news for the firefighting conditions. We're also seeing over the next couple of days those high winds that have been causing some extreme changes in fire behavior begin to taper off as well. But in southern BC, the situation is a little bit different. We still have a ridge of high pressure that's bringing in higher than seasonal temperatures to a big part of southern BC. We'll have more on that coming up later in the show.
Okay, Steve, thanks very much. People in Tumbler Ridge are being asked not to run washing machines, dishwashers, and sprinklers after a massive apartment fire gutted dozens of homes and forced fire crews to draw down a lot of the community's water supply. People in 51 units at the Speaker Apartments were forced out on Saturday. The mayor says no one was reported injured, but the flames spread to nearby woods. It also comes as nearby wildfires have forced some evacuations and cut off road travel. Some of those displaced are having to look for help in Dawson Creek, about 100 kilometers away by road. Tumbler Ridge and nearby communities are under significant wildfire danger amid a 3-year drought. A BC emergency room doctor is blowing the whistle on what she says are deteriorating conditions in 2 emergency rooms. She says she has witnessed preventable deaths of patients and violent attacks against hospital staff. Michelle Gassoub has her story.
Our emergency system is failing. Frontline providers are not allowed to talk about it.
Emergency physician Caitlin Stockton is blowing the whistle, alleging the Fraser Health Authority threatened her job after she tried to warn patients the Eagle Ridge Hospital emergency room was at a breaking point.
The harassment and muzzling and silencing and bullying of frontline providers needs to stop.
On November 18, 2024, doctors urgently asked Fraser Health for help, saying conditions in the ER were unsafe as doctors became overwhelmed. But their requests were allegedly denied.
We were doing everything we could to treat those patients. The people working on that day unquestionably went above and beyond. Some people did fall through the cracks, and it was horrible.
With the situation spiraling, doctors posted this sign calling the wait times unacceptable. Fraser Health later obtained CCTV footage of Stockton posting it and allegedly threatened to revoke her hospital privileges and file a complaint against her. Stockton says it's part of a pattern of silencing frontline medical workers.
This happens all the time. It happens to nurses, it happens to physicians, and this is why the public doesn't really have the full truth about what's happening in our publicly funded hospitals.
The lawsuit also claims the health authority has repeatedly ignored doctors' pleas for help. It says that after the deadly attack on the Lapu Lapu Festival in Vancouver, doctors at Royal Columbian Hospital asked Fraser Health to initiate a Code Orange, a medical protocol that allows hospitals to respond to mass casualty events. But it claims that request was also denied. Stockton says she fears patients are being failed by an overburdened system where medical professionals are punished for speaking out.
It feels like one of those dreams where you're screaming for help, but no sound is coming out. And it just drains the life out of you after a while.
She says the conditions she witnessed on November 18th are playing out in emergency rooms across Canada.
Knowing that you're not providing standard of care to somebody who really needs it is a horrible feeling. It's not the way I was trained. It doesn't feel right. It's not what patients deserve.
The suit also alleges Fraser Health has failed to deal with a string of violent incidents at the hospital. As recently as January, staff at Eagle Ridge were attacked by a patient wielding a machete. CBC News has obtained a letter signed by 50 emergency physicians across BC supporting Stockton's claims. She says as she goes public, she hopes more doctors and patients will step forward demanding change. Michelle Gassoub, CBC News, Vancouver.
CBC News did ask Fraser Health for a response to this story. It's in an email, and it says it does not comment on matters that are before the courts. Vancouver apparel brand Oak and Fort says it has obtained creditor protection as it works to restructure its business. In court documents, the company says it was in the midst of opening 26 new retail shops across North America when the threat of U.S. tariffs and fluctuating interest rates made it impossible to service its debt. One retail advisor says the company got caught in a perfect storm.
It's a very risky moment for a lot of these chains, and I would not be surprised to see some more struggle in the months ahead.
Oak and Fort was founded in 2010 as an online boutique. It expanded to 42 stores in Canada and the U.S., selling accessories, apparel, as well as home goods. It says it will continue to operate stores and an e-commerce business during its restructuring. More cities in Metro Vancouver are adding Lockoff suites to their housing stock. The units are often compared to basement suites for condos and townhomes. As John Hernandez shows us, communities south of the Fraser are the latest to adopt them.
It's not much more than a hole in the ground, but this future Surrey high-rise will include 8 Lockoff suites.
This was a first for us. It was a first for the city of Surrey. We certainly had to work through some nuances with approvals.
Lockoff suites are a secondary unit within a condo or townhome. As shown in this floor plan for a 3-bedroom apartment, part of the unit can be split or locked off as a studio suite with its own kitchen and laundry that can then be rented out.
You can obviously decommission these 2 doors and make this one home if you wanted to.
Developer Jonathan Mead only planned to build 8 because he didn't know just how well they'd sell.
We've had a lot of interest. Obviously, price point at this day in this current market is challenging, but we've actually sold half of them, which is a good thing.
Lockoff suites aren't new. They've been around in Metro Vancouver for over 2 decades, popularized here at SFU.
So I got the idea, why couldn't you create the equivalent of a basement suite in an apartment?
24 units here, the brainchild of architect Michael Geller, which he says gives homeowners and developers flexibility.
One of the biggest problems we have in Metro is developers don't build 3-bedroom apartments because they're hard to pre-sell. This, I think, is a creative way to encourage people to build 3 bedrooms.
Langley Township is the latest municipality to approve them.
If there's a market demand for it, we're certainly happy to give it a try.
Still, the Lockoffs aren't without limitations. Building them costs developers more money, and then there's parking.
Perhaps that this additional unit is going to be somebody who needs to have their own vehicle, and parking is expensive in metropolitan Vancouver. I think it costs something like $70,000 to $100,000 per parking space.
Lockoffs won't solve Metro Vancouver's housing and affordability challenges, but could be one more tool to serve a region with increasingly complex needs. John Hernandez, CBC News, Surrey.
Premier David Eby spoke with reporters from Seoul, South Korea earlier in the day as he nears the end of his 10-day trade mission in Asia. He defended the government's approval of a new pipeline project that will supply natural gas to a proposed floating LNG terminal north of Prince Rupert.
We're not in the business of turning away investment in British Columbia, especially investment that assists us in diversifying our customers for our resources and allows us to get a higher price for those resources.
Eby also met with Korea Gas Corporation, which has a stake in the LNG Canada export facility in Kitimat. It will make its first shipment later this year. A new way to power your luxurious ride on the high seas, but some are not on board with the new idea. The controversy of LNG powering cruise ships is coming up next. Stay with us.
This is Vancouver is a new CBC podcast where we explore the issues, the stories, and the people that make this place home. Listen to This is Vancouver wherever you get your podcasts.
Cruise ships that run on liquefied natural gas are now able to dock and refuel at the Port of Vancouver. Well, some in the marine industry are touting it as an important step toward reducing emissions. As Amelia John explains, some environmental groups are not convinced.
Cruise ship season in Vancouver. Each vessel that stops at Canada Place generates an average of $3 million for the local economy. And while these floating hotels are good for business, they're not great for the environment.
Cruising is more emissions per passenger kilometer than air travel. You know, when we get on a plane, we're not bringing a pool and 6 restaurants with us. Cruise ships also seek out some of the dirtiest and cheapest fossil fuels to burn, and that is hurting their environmental footprint.
The cruise industry knows it has an image problem when it comes to the environment, so it's trying to address concerns by building ships that run on liquefied natural gas, like the Silver Nova. It's refueled twice at the Port of Vancouver this year thanks to the Seaspan Garibaldi, a bunker vessel which stores and transfers LNG from Fortis, BC.
The marine industry is turning to LNG as a transitional fuel as they try to lower their emissions. When we talk about emissions, we're talking about greenhouse gas emissions as well as the emissions that can impact air quality in local communities on the coast.
While the industry is promoting LNG as an important step forward to reduce emissions, environmental groups say LNG can release methane, a potent greenhouse gas.
We think about 2050 and being net zero. LNG does not get us there. It is primarily a fossil fuel. Around here, it's from fracking, and that is not sustainable. That's not future-proof.
Other alternatives like hydrogen, methanol, and ammonia are being developed, but they're still a ways away.
There are other fuels which are being looked at. LNG is the chosen one, being chosen by the marine industry right now because it's here. It's reliable, the supply chain is there, it's safe, we know how to use it.
It's not clear how many LNG cruise ships will be refueling at the Port of Vancouver in the months and years to come, but as new ships come onto the market, more could be on the horizon. Amelia John, CBC News, Vancouver.
Canada's Competition Bureau is suing DoorDash, alleging it charges customers more than what it promises in ads. Nisha Patel shows us what signal this might send to other companies.
Canadians can use DoorDash to order just about anything online and have it delivered, but some customers say it's tough to keep track of the fees.
They have that BC regular fee or whatever, it is 99 cents, and they just keep adding those, and the service is not that good.
There's always so many service charges recently, and it just gets to an astronomical point.
Now Canada's competition watchdog is suing the company, alleging that DoorDash adds mandatory fees at checkout, so that consumers pay more than was advertised. The Competition Bureau says so-called drip pricing is deceptive because consumers are not presented with an attainable price up front.
Your door to more. DoorDash.
The Bureau alleges DoorDash used drip pricing for close to a decade, making nearly $1 billion from mandatory fees. Consumer advocates welcome the suit.
These sort of middlemen businesses, whether that's delivery or hotel and travel booking, airlines, I think there are a lot of targets that, should be basically dealing with consumers more straightforwardly.
In 2022, Canadian law recognized drip pricing as harmful, and the Competition Bureau has become more aggressive. Last year, Cineplex was fined $39 million for charging an extra fee during online ticket purchases.
If they are successful, other companies with similar practices, because often it's rarely just one company engaging in these practices, they'll see this and change their ways.
The company claims it was unfairly singled out and says DoorDash does not hide fees from consumers or mislead them in any way. We intend to vigorously defend ourselves against these claims.
The Competition Bureau says it's looking for DoorDash to change its practices, pay a financial penalty, and compensate affected customers. Nisha Patel, CBC News, Toronto.
Warm and windy. That is Port Alberni, where it hit temperatures into the high 20s earlier in the day. Not the only place seeing high temperatures across our great big province. Steve Jung has your BC-wide weather forecast coming up next.
Hi, I'm Amy Bell, and here's what's in your CBC inbox.
Check out CBC News BC, your local streaming channel. It's a free ad-supported TV channel available 24/7, delivering breaking news, weather updates, daily headlines, and sharing stories that matter to British Columbians. Stream your favorite CBC programs like The Early Edition, BC Today, and On the Coast. CBC News BC is available on connected TV platforms.
Steve Jung is here with our BC-wide weather forecast. Steve, it has been hot. Look at that map. What is coming up next?
Well, I want to tell you, Dan, that hopefully we'll see some cooling off start to happen later on in the week. But for the next couple of days, we still have a ridge of high pressure that's bringing higher than seasonal temperatures to a large part of southern BC, especially in the southern interior and also in the Kootenays. You'll see temperatures in the low 30s up to the mid 30s in some parts. Also pretty hot closer to the lower mainland, 21 in Vancouver, 26 in Abbotsford and the Fraser Valley. But hopefully by Wednesday, we'll see it begin to cool down in that area a little bit as that heat starts to taper off. The cooling trend begins, and by Thursday, hopefully we'll see temperatures return to something a little closer than seasonal. We're also seeing some relief coming in the form of precipitation. By about midweek, we'll see some scattered showers begin to form, but then by Thursday, more precipitation forms over BC and even makes its way, hopefully, towards the northeastern part of the province, that area currently affected by wildfires. Very dry up there right now, severe drought conditions. Hopefully this will mean some good news in that area. Tonight, though, we're seeing mostly clear skies across much of British Columbia, some clouds in the northern part of the province. And for tomorrow, lots of sun, a little bit of cloud across BC. But take a look here in Cranbrook. We're seeing a risk of thunderstorms there. And BC Wildfire Service has said with that risk of thunderstorms and also the dry fuel could mean more wildfire starts. So still a little bit volatile in southern BC. But as we get to the 5-day forecast for Metro Vancouver, temperatures in the low 20s, chance of showers on Thursday night.
Okay, Steve Jung, thanks very much.
My pleasure.
And thank you for being with us on CBC Vancouver News. For news at any hour, please check our website, cbc.ca/BC. Your next local news is on the early edition on CBC Radio 1. That starts tomorrow morning at 5:30. Good night.